Hey there, floralpreneurs. It is I, Allison Ellis, here of realflowerbusiness.com, coming at you in September, taking in the last days on my little screened-in porch here. Before I get into my tips today, I have a little thought on pricing, a pricing issue that keeps coming up, which is you give a quote to a client and then they come back with a lower price. All right, so I have a tip for you on that. But before I hop into that tip, I want to make sure that I invite you to my pricing chat for florists on Wednesday, September 17th. This will be a live pricing chat. However, there will be a replay available until September 30th for everybody who signs up. So it's only $5 to join, and you get the live session, you get a workbook, and you're gonna get the replay with more time to watch than I often provide for my pricing chat. So you'll be able to watch until September 30th. Okay, so if you want to join that, there's either going to be a link around this video or head to realflowerbusiness.com to sign up today. So with that out of the way, let me get to my pricing tip today. A question came in on my Facebook group the other day about making this quote for a client. It was about $2,100 for the quote for these tabletops with garlands and flowers all along. And when the floral designer gave the quote to the customer, it was a corporate client, as I recall, they came back and said their budget was actually $750. So what do you do in this scenario? So first of all, the florist was questioning her pricing. Like, is this right? Am I pricing this right? And the answer was yes, she was pricing it right. But when somebody comes back and tells you that their budget is actually a third of what you've quoted, there's a problem. And the problem is you can't be expected to create a $2,100 look for $750. And the big problem comes when you overpromise and then underdeliver. So we don't want to get ourselves in trouble by trying to be accommodating and trying to work with somebody's budget when in reality what we're doing is disappointing them when it comes time to deliver, because you weren't honest about the fact that that budget isn't going to get this look. So how do we actually deal with this? Now I'm going to tell you, I am still a real florist, right? I'm a real florist like you. I still do weddings. This is my 24th wedding season, and I'm booking clients for next year. So inquiries are coming in. And as you may notice in your business, people are more price conscious right now. So how do you address this? With transparency as much as possible. I think of myself as somebody who respects my clients' budgets. I genuinely do. I really do my best to work within the parameters of what their desired range is. However, what I'm not going to do is overpromise and underdeliver. I'm not going to tell them that their $3,000 budget is sufficient for everything they want if it's not. If they have a $3,000 budget, I can tell them what I can do within that. And then all these other things that they want, those go outside those bounds. And the same thing with your corporate client. If you quoted them $2,100 and they have $750, well, something's got to give. And it's got to be the client's expectation because they're not getting that full look at a third the price. And that makes sense, right? You wouldn't expect anybody to give you, for example, let's just say you went into a bakery. You want to buy a cake and they tell you the price of the cake and you say, okay, that's great, except I only have 1/3 that amount. Do you think they're going to give you the whole cake? Or do you think maybe you'll get a third of that cake? Or maybe even less, right? So just please keep that in mind when you are in this position, which happens all the time and is gonna keep happening. No matter who you are, no matter who you serve, there are people who are looking for you to give them the sun and the moon and the stars for a teeny tiny price. And there's a way to deal with it and a way to not deal with it. You don't have to just reject the client and say no. You can, right? Especially if you know that there's no way to compromise this look. You've already come in as low as you can. Fine, it could be a no. But working within people's budgets is part of what we do. It's part of the service that we provide. And it's part of how we build our longevity by not just saying no, I can't help you to anyone who comes with a budget parameter. But what we're not going to do is overpromise and underdeliver. So with the client who came to me recently for next year saying she's very budget conscious, she has an ideal budget and range, this is the max we can spend. No problem. Here's what you can get for that max. But then when she wrote to me this morning to say, this looks great, can we repurpose the arbor flowers for the mantle? What that means, right? My wheels are turning. What that means is she's adding 2 hours of time at least onto her delivery and setup time, because now I have to wait. You're just paying for me to wait to flip. So that was the first thing that I let her know. We can do that, but it's going to add 2 hours on, which adds money, which is not what her goal is, right? Her goal is, how do I get the mantle for free, right? And that's not a thing. You don't get the mantle for free. You can have the mantle, you can have the arbor. You can have me repurpose the flowers from the mantle to the arbor, but it's going to cost you nearly as much as if you just got the mantle itself. So then the client has a decision to make. They can decide what the priority is, how they want to spend the budget. I can present the options. I'm not just saying, no, I can't do that. That doesn't make sense. Yes, I can. But if I'm really being, thoughtful of your budget, that's not the best use of the money, right? So we can guide, we can advise, but what we don't want to do is overpromise and underdeliver. And what you really don't want to do is overspend and cut into your profit margin, all right? So join me for the pricing chat on Wednesday, September 17th. If you want to join me live, if you want to catch that replay, it'll be available until the 30th. Again, it's just $5 to join. That's it. And you'll get in and we're going to have a really great conversation. You can ask questions live and you can always get in touch with me via email afterwards if you have any questions for me. All right. You keep doing beautiful work. You keep pricing for profit, keep pricing knowing that you getting paid is part of how you show up. If you don't pay yourself, you can't show up fully. You can't show up your best self if you're not getting paid, right? So make sure you're getting paid. See you in the pricing chat. Have a great day. Bye.